Have you ever been at a point where you wonder what's next? Or has it ever felt like a puzzle you had to solve just to discover God's will in your daily life?
What if your life took a turn in what you considered to be the wrong direction? A great marriage is suddenly struggling, your finances are stretched thin, or maybe you're facing some serious challenges in your family and you're concerned you might not make the right choice.
If any of that sounds like you, then you are at the right place. Today, Mike Donehey of the band 10th Avenue North shares with us on the answer to unlock the mystery of God's will for what's next and to move forward each day in confidence.
I want you to join us today as we discuss something that will make a great difference in your life.
Welcome to The Difference.
Kendal and I are being joined today by lead singer, songwriter, and guitarist for the band 10th Avenue North, Mike Donehey. Mike,
Mike.
welcome
Thanks
to the couch. And
It's very comfortable.
you know, there's a lot to get into when it comes to the title of your recent book here, Finding God's Life for My Will.
Yeah.
Now, somebody would say, well, he said that wrong. But I think in context, the perspective of it is probably something a lot of people have and don't know.
Yeah. There seems to me, I've been around a while, I guess, and there's a lot of phrases we use that we say them so often we forget what we're even saying.
Correct.
And so a lot of people say, I want to know God's will for my life. And sometimes that sort of morphs into, I need God to give me a step-by-step plan. Mm-hmm. And it's been my experience in my life that I need to stop asking God what he's going to do for me, and I need to start asking him what he wants to do in me. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
absolutely.
totally.
So,
yeah, well, and I mean, if you consider what the Bible describes as the life of a believer, you know, as a disciple, as a follower of Christ, when you are a follower, where he goes, you go. What he does, you do. How he lives, you live.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, instead of playing follow the leader, we kind of play Mother May I. You know, may I. And there are times, you know, I know in my life where I'm asking Lord, what do you want me to do? He's like, if I haven't told you to change anything, don't change anything. Just keep walking.
Present.
yeah, that's fair, for sure.
And so there's a lot of times we want God's will to fit our life, and we want the life that we believe God wants us to have. And God goes, you know, I know the plans I have for you, and I'm the one who'll make the decisions. I just need you to trust me.
Yeah, and when you, so I was thinking about those verses in 1 Thessalonians. It talks about, be joyful always, pray continually, give thanks in all circumstances. This is God's will for your life in Christ Jesus. And I thought about that one for a while. I was like, that's really annoying. He just said, you want to know what God's will for your life is? Pray continually. In other words, don't stop asking him what it is. Yeah. So I thought about myself. I'm like, I imagine God has all the directions for my life, right? And he's sitting in the passenger seat, and he's like that annoying friend who won't tell you the next turn until it's almost too late. Yeah. He's like, turn right now. And you're like, like, God, could you give me a little more ramp up? Could you just like set the trajectory in my Tesla? Like just put in the bullet points.
You have a Tesla?
You have?
No, I don't have a Tesla. But like, this is an analogy.
Yeah,
put it in a Tesla so it'll
the
drive.
hair fits the car. So
it'll drive itself, you know, and I don't have to think about it. And God goes, man, I would give you the GPS like 15 instructions ahead of time, but then you'd stop listening to my voice.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I really
Quit trusting
believe,
me.
after being like a Christian performer, I really believe God doesn't really need my performance, but he really is after my heart.
Yeah.
Yes.
And sometimes if God gave us all the answers, he wouldn't have the intimacy with us that he's really after.
I think that you share an important perspective that a lot of people might not realize, that humanity wants to believe we're needed. And when it comes to God, we have to recognize he is all sufficient, all by himself.
Well, there's a great quote. I think it might have been Louis Giglio said it. He said, would you trade the leading role in the story of you for a supporting role in the story of God? And we don't want to do that, even though if we're the starring role in the story of us, it's like, I've got the leading role in a local furniture store commercial. And God's going, I want to give you Samwise Gamgee in Lord of the Rings. And we go, well, that's not my story. So I'm not being the supporting role.
Exactly. I didn't audition for that part.
But the thing is, I think it's Eugene Peterson, he said, when we don't start with God at the center, it makes our whole life go sideways. Like that it's really his story and we're a part of it. And that actually takes a lot of the pressure off. I don't have to like save everybody. Like God's the one who saves people.
Correct.
You know?
So the individuals who know you as a Christian artist, you've obviously had a very successful Christian music career with 10th Avenue North.
Yeah.
What is it in this book that they're going to find out about you that they might not know?
Well, one is that I didn't want to do music. It wasn't my dream at all. I wanted to go into theater, but my senior year of high school, I got in a near fatal car accident where I broke my head and broke my back in a couple places, and they said I flatlined 5 times on the way to the hospital. Wow. And when I was laying on my back for 2 months waiting for my back to heal, that's the first time I asked for a guitar. And so I get to college, right? And I'm just barely know 4 chords. But
There's more?
I was a theater major. Yeah, well, that's all you need, right?
Yeah, I mean, 4 chords in a capo and you're good.
I mean, yeah.
So I've been told.
Effectually. I mean, I was already starting to write songs, even though I barely knew how to play the guitar.
A lot of that going on.
Well, yeah. And I wanted to be a theater major, and I thought, this is where I'm going to thrive. This is where it's going to happen. But my first 2 years of school, I just wasn't getting any parts. And then I started playing with some roommates music, and then by the end of my college career, I had to turn down roles in plays because we were doing stuff with the band. And that's kind of like the whole idea of the book is sometimes you're like, this is the dream, this is what it has to be. And St. Augustine said, like, God's always wanting to give us good things, but sometimes our hands are too full to receive them.
Absolutely.
So it's like, just
let
it go, man.
Yeah, and you know, I've found it a pretty common thread with individuals who have achieved great levels of success, that many of them in the area where they are successful, it was never their intention to get there. You know, it was something that they would tell you, well, it just kind of happened. Here's what I was doing, and then all of a sudden these events led to this, and now here I am.
Yeah.
And it really, I think that exists in them so that they don't get the opportunity to take credit for it.
I mean, there is something to say, like God wants to keep us needy.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it makes sense, at least for me, it was this way. I really felt insufficient with a guitar in my hands. And so it was like God kept opening doors, and I was going, I'm sorry, I'm not the best at this.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
You had to depend on him for the balance of your talent, as opposed to another area where you knew, I've got the talent to do this.
Yeah, I mean, if he opposes the proud and gives grace to the humble,
stay there.
That's a good spot to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Well, you know, we're going to talk more about your book when we come back, but there's a lot to address and applications to make for the individuals who are watching today. You don't want to miss what we're going to be sharing next right after this short break.
Do you have the kind of faith that can weather any storm? Trusting that God is in control and will forge victory in your life?
We serve an awesome God, one who uses each and every struggle to bring you closer to Him. When fear knocks at your door, send faith to answer. Faith is the key to abundant living.
For your support this month, we would like to send you Pastor's latest devotional, Stormproof, 100 Days of Triumph Over Trouble. And for your gift of $125 or more, we'll include our Triumphant in Trouble series and a unique weekender bag emblazoned with the Hagee Ministries logo.
Trust in God and see Him take the broken pieces of your life and make them into something beautiful.
God has so much more in store for you. Send your gift today. Call the number on your screen or visit jhm.org/storm.
See the Bible come to life by standing in the very places where the stories of the Holy Scriptures unfolded. Join Pastors John and Matt Hagee on this extraordinary tour of the Holy Land. Visit historical sites such as the Mount of Beatitude, where Jesus delivered the Sermon on the Mount, float upon the waters of the Dead Sea, and pray at the Western Wall. Renew your faith in the Holy Land. For more information, go to jhm.org or call the number on the screen.
Welcome back to The Difference. We're here with Mike Donehey from 10th Avenue North, and we were just talking about his latest release book, Finding God's Life for My Will. And during the break, though, they were talking about how many times you've been to the principal's office.
Yes.
Is it for real 42?
It's at least 42. That was just my 7th grade year, mind you. So.
I understand. And sometimes there are,
Why?
moments. Well, I believe that individuals have been called of God to encourage principles.
No, so here's the story.
You were stirring up his gifts.
Here's the deal. My middle school principal changed my life because
You spent a lot of time with him.
I spent a lot of time with him. And in the book, I tell about a time he caught me stealing candy out of the candy machine, okay? You know how you used to be able to, like...
Yes.
They've upgraded the security system.
Yeah, well, now your arm gets caught in there if you actually...
Yeah, well, I mean, I had the arm that could just, like, squeeze in.
I always had fat fingers, so I never got to do that.
Yeah.
But I'd hire a kid like you to help.
I was the kid. I was the kid. And
split it with you, bro.
I'm stealing Starbursts, you know, from the bottom row. Mr. Brunk comes in, catches me.
What a principal name, Brunk.
Randy Brunk.
Yeah.
Forceful, just... Yeah. And I'm like, hey, man. And he says
Want
this. Well, not every other teacher, but a lot of teachers, if they caught me, they would have been like, see, you're a delinquent. You've always been a delinquent. This is exactly what we would expect of you.
Good labels.
And
instead of seeing you as creative.
Yeah, exactly. Mr. Brunk said, you're telling me your integrity is worth 50 cents. I always thought it was worth more than that. And my 8th grade year, I didn't go to the principal's office once.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I equated to, instead of talking down to me, he talked me up, right? And that
He spoke to your potential. He didn't speak to your behavior.
Yeah,
That's right.
There's a quote, treat a man as he is, he'll remain that man. But if you treat a man as he ought to be, is what he could be, that's what he becomes.
And I think that's a lot of what your book, just in the context of our conversation, has communicated to me, that what you've discovered in your journey is that God is constantly speaking to who you ought to be. You know, the Bible says he sees those things that are not as though they were. And a lot of his patience and his faithfulness in our lives is just continually reminding us, I see who you can be. Do you want to be that?
Yes.
I see who you can be. Do you want to be that? And it's not until you hear it and gain his perspective on it that you're willing to even attempt.
Yeah, and he, like Mr. Brunk did in that moment, he saw past the outer.
Yeah.
I think that
he always sees the inside.
The big thing that I've wrestled out with this book is just how much God's not impressed by my titles. He's not impressed by my accomplishments.
Yeah.
He isn't, he's not fooled in any case. And one of the things, I wrote this book a lot because there's so many people who all they see when they see me is this facade, and they think, they'll come up to me and say, when did you know this was God's calling on your life to do this? Because obviously, to be on a big stage, to have success, I must have had it all figured out. And I always look back at them, I go, I don't know if it is. And they go, what do you mean? I said, well, here's the deal. The only thing I need to worry about is where my heart is with God. And that's something where God sees past even what I'm asking for. I call it, he follows our desires deeper down, right? Like some of us go, God, I want to be famous. And God goes, do you really? Actually, what you want is to be known and loved. So I'm actually
you want acceptance.
I'm not going to give you the fame, but we can work with that.
Yeah.
You know? And that's my encouragement with the book is like, man, don't like look here like circumstantially, because those are always going to change. Those are always going to shift.
Well, and you know, your subtitle, His Presence is the Plan.
Yeah.
I think that's an absolute truth. That, you know, as long as you are abiding in the presence of God, which sometimes people want to make that a lot more difficult than it is. His Word will help you be in His presence. Prayer will help you be in His presence, and worship. Those are the 3 things that take you out of your circumstance and put you in His presence. Your circumstance still exists. It hasn't changed, but what's changed is the atmosphere that you exist in. And so if you get into His presence, He will handle your circumstances with His plan. If you stay in your presence and you send Him your complaints, then He's going to look at you and go, well, you fight that as long as you want to until you're asking me to handle it. You know. And I've, as a pastor, you know, the question you began our conversation with, what is God's will for my life? And I tell them, I said, God has a general will for every human being. And I said, in his general will, I said, for a believer, I said, the Bible clearly states, love the Lord your God with all of your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. Now, what I know about God is that if you're not accomplishing his general will, he will never trust you with his specific will. He's got a specific will for you. He's got a specific will for me. He's got a specific will for every person. And if you are not accomplishing what he has asked of all believers, then he's not going to look at you and say, hey, I need you to do more. Because
you got to deal with the nearest step, not the 10th step.
It's like my 5-year-old walking in and say, Dad, I'd like to learn to drive. Oh, here's the keys. Well, why don't you get tall enough to sit in the front seat first?
It's like I was making a smoothie with my kids because it's the only way they'll eat nutrition, and because I can sneak things into it.
It's not like one of those organic things, is it?
Well, there is some of that, but it's covered up with chocolate. It would taste good.
That's not a smoothie. That's medicine.
Yeah, that's right. And I'm putting in some avocado with a fork, and
it's definitely medicine.
Yeah, exactly. And my oldest daughter comes. She goes, "Can I help?" And she grabs some spinach, again, not your kind of smoothie, and she throws it in, and I forget that the fork is in the Vitamix, like the 400 horsepower Vitamix blender.
She was trying to save your lives.
And we put all this stuff in, more stuff, put the cap on, hit go. All the lights in the house start fluctuating, there's sparks flying, smoke, and the fork bursts out the side of the Vitamix, okay? A smoothie explodes over the kitchen.
Wife?
The fork puts a hole in the drywall. It comes out with so much force. I'm like, that could have been me.
Wow.
And I've likened that to someone's like, God, what am I do next? What do I do next? Show me what to do next. Show me what to do. And the whole time he's like, hey man, like what about that fork of bitterness? Like, can we just get the fork out?
No. With regard to that spiritual application that Mike just made to such a horrific kitchen accident, folks at home, he does not endorse that behavior and would not recommend anybody leaving utensils inside appliances. So if you do that, it's not because you watched it on this show.
No, get the fork out is what I'm saying.
Amen.
Get the bitterness
but after
out.
this quick break, Kendal and I, we're headed to the kitchen for some food, and we're going to give you the opportunity to hear Mike sing one of his great songs before this program is over. You're watching The Difference.
For over 30 years, our mission has been all the gospel to all the world and to all generations. Pastor John Hagee has been faithful to this calling, and his son, Pastor Matt Hagee, has also dedicated his life to preaching the salvation message of Jesus Christ. Looking to the future, we see a generation that needs this message more than ever, and we must meet the challenges of reaching a changing world with an unchanging gospel. Vision 2020 is an initiative to equip Hagee Ministries to meet the spiritual needs of the next generation. With your support, Hagee Ministries will be a gospel light shining in a dark and tormented world for your children, your grandchildren, and beyond.
Will you catch the vision? Will you partner with us to reach the next generation for the glory of God? Go to jhm.org/Vision 2020 and see how you can be a part.
I'm the next generation.
I'm the next generation.
Vision 2020, a promise for generations to come.
Israel, the land where our Savior walked, was crucified, and rose on the third day. Experience Holy Week as never before. Sign up for a week full of devotions led by Pastor Matt Hagee from the land of Israel. Twice each day during the week, you'll receive a video devotional that will refresh your spirit and strengthen your faith. Sign up by going to jhm.org/Holy Week. Then look forward to receiving your first devotional on Sunday, April 5th. Let's experience Christ's journey to his resurrection together.
We are back in the kitchen with Melissa D. Arabian, and one of the things that we're about to do is bake, which is one of my favorite things to do at home with my kids. There's comfort in there, you're getting together, you're connecting with your kids, and you can make a mess.
Well, you make a mess, but not only that, the kids create. Because, I mean,
that's right.
Kids do things with recipes that adults would never even try. And
That's right.
like sometimes we'll be doing breakfast and my 6-year-old Madison will walk in, she's like, Dad, can we put this in the pancakes? And I'm like, sure, we can put that in the pancakes. And if you don't like it, we don't have to do it again next time, you know? So what are we creating today?
Well, and we were meant to be creators, right?
Yes.
We were created in our Creator's image. And you can almost just imagine God, creating the world like a kid with Play-Doh and like doing it and says, oh, that looks very good. So we are creators in our nature.
You bet.
And so I've got a great recipe for you to be able to create with your kids, because you can add in almost any flavor profile and it's going to be tasty. We're making shortbread.
Shortbread.
The butter and the sugar mean that you can,
it's delicious.
that anything will come together and taste good. Okay, so it's a non-recipe recipe in that it's so easy to make because it's only 3 ingredients. We've got flour, butter, and sugar. And even the amounts are so easy, you're going to be able to remember it. It's a cup of flour.
Got it.
And then half of that, half a cup of butter, half of that, or a quarter cup of sugar.
Got it.
So a whole half quarter.
One half quarter. All right. So then you just blend them together with a with a mixer.
Egg beater?
Yeah. Or mixer. Do you call them egg beaters here? We call them mixers.
Sure. Egg beater,
So just a beater, and you're going to create a really simple dough.
Mixed it all up.
And here it is.
And here's the dough. Now here's where the creation and the fun part is. You can pick almost any 2 ingredients and put them in, and it'll be tasty.
Oh, chocolate chips.
Today we're doing chocolate chips.
have some
Do you want to get your
chocolate.
hands into the dough or no? You want me to do it?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever.
Chocolate chips
Do it.
and rosemary. Now I'm going to give it a little. Oh, okay.
So
I
these
see. I see a spoon. That's my cue for me getting in there.
Okay, you do it.
I don't know if it was for me because I like to eat raw dough, but it's not the safest thing to do.
Well, but there are no eggs in this, so.
It's eggless, so you can.
Well, there's flour, people say, but I'll tell you this, I'm 50 years old. I've been eating raw flour my whole life. So anyway, but do not do this at home. I'm a trained professional.
That's right.
So we have rosemary and chocolate chips that we put in here. But, your kids
Why the rosemary?
Well, rosemary and chocolate really work beautifully together. You're going to see.
Okay. I'm going to try it.
Try putting an herb plus like a chocolate chip or a white chocolate chip or orange zest. Try that. Try herbs in your shortbread, and I think you're going to be really surprised. All right, let me show you.
You first.
Let me show you a trick that you can do with your kids to make it so much easier than the rolling out and cutting to make a traditional shortbread.
Okay,
I have a little bit of a shortcut. Just take your dough, cut it in half. I'll let you do this one.
Awesome.
Now this one you got to use your hands.
I know.
All right.
You got
Just
it.
roll it into a ball and then squish it flat into a disc. And put it down like that. There we go. We got a piece of parchment right here.
Yes.
And then we're just going to take a cutter and we're going to cut it into 8. We're going to do 1,
Like a little
2.
pizza.
That's exactly right. 3, 4.
triangles.
There you go. You do the same. Oh, let's see. Do we have a fork? Yeah. And then we give a little poke to the dough to give it these traditional shortbread little holes, which really are more just tradition than anything else. And then we're going to bake the cookies just like this. Low temperature, 300 degrees, 25 minutes.
Then you break them apart.
And then they're going to break apart. Like, how easy is that? And your kids can do it with you. And your kids can put in whatever ingredients they want. And then they are also leaning into that creation, into that creating that God made us to do. Okay, so let's just put this whole thing right here.
And these are kind of like the recipes that you make. I would say, my grandmother, she used to always have a pie ready just in case somebody came by.
This is one of those recipes you can make really quickly.
Yeah, and just leave it set there in case company comes by.
That's
it goes good with coffee, all that other kind of stuff.
That's exactly it. If you have something that tastes good with coffee, you're in good shape.
Absolutely. Well, we want you to know that there are a lot of ways that you can be creative in the kitchen and spend great time with your family. Many of those have been covered in Melissa's book, Tasting Grace, and I want you to have the opportunity not only to get a copy of that, but find these great recipes by following Melissa on social media or look up Kendal and I right here at The Difference. We look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you for joining us today. I want you to remember that no matter what's going on in your life, God has a plan, and it's a perfect plan. It's called His perfect will. And in order for you to receive it, you simply have to trust Him.
That's right. We want to thank our guests, Mike Donehey and Melissa D. Arabian. We had so much fun in the kitchen and listening to Mike on the couch and share his music, which we're going to have him coming up next to share a
He's
song.
getting ready to sing, but before he comes, I want you to know that you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, any of your social media platforms. You can find Matt and Kendal Hagee and The Difference right there. We even recently launched a brand new podcast. And for more information on the things that are happening at Hagee Ministries, you can go to hageeministries.org, and there you get the opportunity to see where we can be in touch with you.
That's right. So now as we close out today's program, we are honored to have Mike Donehey perform his song, Greater Than All My Regrets.
When the past, it comes to haunt me, it tells me what I've done, it reminds me what's gone wrong. When my sins are laid before me, my Lord, you take them on. Yes, my Lord, you take them on. So if I fall and if I fail, I will trust your mercy is greater than all of this. And if I bend and if I break, I'll trust the hands that hold me are greater than all my regrets. You are greater than all my regrets. Father, I know I break your heart when I choose my way, when I doubt your love. But you take me as I am, child. Yeah, you whisper in my ear, let's get up and try again. So if I fall and if I fail, I will trust your mercy is greater than all of this. And if I bend and if I break, I'll trust the hands that hold me are greater than all my regrets. You are greater than all my regrets. Ooh, ooh, oh. Hallelujah, you are right here with me. Hallelujah, you have always been there. Hallelujah, you will never stop chasing me. You're chasing me, God. Hallelujah, you are right here with me. Hallelujah, you have always been there. Hallelujah, you will never stop chasing me. You're chasing